Welcome to Travel Stories Unpacked, the travel podcast where we talk about all things from the silly to the serious and everywhere in between. I'm Ashley Newton.
And I'm Annie Yu. We are your co-hosts. And today we are unpacking a really interesting topic because up until now, we've talked about travel in a sense where what it's like visiting other places, but we've never really approached it from the point of view of someone who is visiting the US as a tourist. So that's what we're going to unpack today. What is it like to be a tourist in America?
Yes, I love this. So Annie brought this topic to me and right away I was like, say no more, like literally say no more, because I wanted to sort of unpack it all with you guys in real time. But I love that this came from a really close place to you. Like this is a very personal topic.
Yeah. Well, because one, I come from an immigrant family, but two, my sister, who I talk about often on the show, she's lived in Tokyo now with her two girls for about almost 6 years. But they haven't been home in a long time. So it's been long enough now that when they visited recently for the holidays, they pretty much felt like tourists. And it was so much fun getting to see their experience from that point of view, especially the girls who are 11 and 14, who at this point basically spent half their lives in Tokyo. And just hearing the way they react to certain things was just hilarious that we don't ever think about.
Right. Well, and I know that you said you were pretty young when your family, but how, because your sister is older than you, right?
Yeah, I'm the baby.
So what has her life been like? When did she come over here?
Yeah. So we also have an older brother. And it's so funny that when you look at the three of us, you can tell who was a little bit older when we came here, who was kind of still growing up and who was pretty much raised here, meaning me. But it's just funny. You can see the three of us and see how the way we talk, the way we act is reflected of how we grew up in the States.
Yeah.
So I was pretty young. I was probably not even 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kelly was Kelly was probably around 10, and then our brother was probably 14 or 15.
10, wow. Because like by 10, you have your worldview established. You know what I mean? So that's really interesting.
Right. And one of the first things, and to this day, our family still has a love affair with, is TGI Fridays. Because like we come from a very small, like at the time, fishing village in China.
Mm-hmm.
So chain restaurants, big box grocery, like those were not, it wasn't even a concept to us. And we came to the States and saw that you can eat at one restaurant and then go to another one that's like an hour away and have the exact same thing. That is crazy. And TGI Fridays just happened to be the first chain restaurant I can think back to that we visited, and we were just like mind blown by it. I haven't been back to visit since, not since 2000.
To visit TGI Fridays?
No, I was just there like not too long ago. But my best friend roasts me all the time because my brother in the Cleveland area owns a lot of restaurants.
Yeah.
So it's not like we don't know the ins and outs of the culinary world, but the fact that we all still love TGI Fridays, like my best friend makes fun of us for it all the time. I love their fried green beans. It's good stuff.
I would eat them right now.
Same. But yeah, Kelly and her two daughters, Ava, who's 11, and Sophie, who is 14, and their dad, we'll call him Chad. Kelly and Chad and their girls started traveling, and they lived in California, Hawaii, France, and one year ended up in Tokyo. They loved it so much they settled there, and they've been there ever since for about 6 years.
Okay, and then she comes back to the States,
and
it's all new again.
Pretty much. And I should preface this story with saying that the trip for Kelly was an epic fail from start to end.
Okay, I need to hear more about this because I have heard like bits and pieces, and at one point, like, because Annie and I work together as well. Like the podcast is just something we do for fun. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay the bills. Yeah,
not yet.
Like, share, subscribe.
But, Cash App, something.
Yeah. But I saw this thing and then it was like, oh, Annie has to go take care of her sister. And I was like, oh gosh, like I hope everything's okay. So like what happened?
Okay, so Kelly is the kind of person, my entire life, I have never seen her this sick. And when she does get sick, she's the kind of person who feels down for maybe a day or two and then she's back at it. You know what I mean? That's just how she's always been until now. Like she was down bad, dude. Like she had so much fluid on one side of her head. At one point it was coming out of her eye. So it was a Monday. We were all working remote and she's texting me. She comes home to visit for the holidays with Ava, Sophie, and Chad. And she told me, I'm not feeling too well. I'm like, then you're not staying with me. Like, don't come even. And I didn't get sick at all. So I made her stay with our brother. And she was basically quarantined in this guest room for the whole week. She basically flew around the world just to lay in bed for 7 days. She landed on Christmas Eve, which was a Tuesday. Wednesday, she was feeling okay. And by Thursday and Friday, she was down and out. Now, here's the thing. Friday, I bought tickets for all of us to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah.
Because they always end their tour in Cleveland. And we're driving there, me, her, Ava, and Sophie. And she's like hanging on by a thread, man. She's like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I can't. I think I'm just going to have to sleep in the car.
Oh, no.
So we get to Tower City and we park. And she just stays in the car and sleeps for 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours, while me and the girls went inside and watched Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So we left my sister in a car in a very questionable part of Cleveland, like parking. It's like right by Steelyard, like the factories and stuff. Because like all the parking lots are, that's another thing. She's like, I always forget how big the parking lots are in America.
Yeah.
Because America, you know, we're built around cars and roads. It's not like Tokyo or really any other major city that has a pretty robust transit system. So she just slept in my car for 2.5 hours. So she's still sick Saturday, Sunday. Finally, Monday, I was like, we got to take you to the doctor, Kelly. Like, there's something, the fact that you've been sick for this long, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Thing is, she doesn't have American health insurance. She has Japanese health insurance. So couldn't go to any.
And probably didn't get travel insurance for the trip.
She did
right?
not. I kept saying the whole time, like, you should have gotten travel insurance.
Well, you know, I don't think people always think about travel insurance from the medical aspect because, like, it wasn't like she had a hotel. It wasn't like she, you know what I mean? So, like, you just think about it sort of like, oh, I'm just going home. Like, what is there to do? So, like, yet another call to get travel insurance.
Oh my God. I said it so many times too. I'm like, because she said she started feeling a little bad like the day before her flight to the US. I'm like, you should have known. But like I said, she's used to getting sick for maybe a day or two and then she's over it. So I guess in a way, no one could have saw how bad it was going to be. So come Monday, you know, we're working remotely and she's texting me like, that's it. I got to go see a doctor. I'm like, we'll figure something out. We may not be able to take you to like an actual ER. But I think we can hit up like a CVS Minute Clinic or something.
For real, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we ended up doing. We had to go to 3 separate CVS Minute Clinics because everywhere else was booked. The one place you had to put your name on a sign-up sheet. And man, if this ain't the American healthcare system in a nutshell, they couldn't find a pen, but she found a little crayon that was like 1.5 inches long. And she scribbled her name in crayon on the sign-up sheet.
At the CVS Minute
At
Clinic,
the CVS,
no less.
Yeah, because she didn't have American health insurance. But here's the even funnier. She was like, I just need antibiotics. I'm like, yeah, it seems like what you have is probably some sort of bacterial infection.
Yeah.
You're going to need antibiotics. She thought you can just go up to the counter, like to the pharmacy and just be like, give me drugs.
Now, can you do that in Tokyo?
I think the process is different. But she really thought it was just one of those things where you can go up to the counter and demand like antibiotics.
Well, I just had friends in Thailand for their honeymoon, and they were able to do just that. 100% get antibiotics just from going into a pharmacy and being like
without
I
a
would like some
prescription?
antibiotics, please. And they were like, here are your antibiotics.
Yeah, well,
no prescription, no appointment, no anything.
Well, maybe it is like that in Japan, but obviously not here.
Correct.
So in the middle of her walking up to the pharmacist counter, she starts going to a coughing fit. And I made her wear a mask. I'm like, don't come near me. So she's coughing her brains out at the counter, like, drugs. Like,
I just feel like it's the start of a zombie apocalypse movie. Like,
and I'm sitting in the waiting area. I'm like, Kelly, you simply cannot walk into a pharmacy. One does not just walk into a pharmacy and ask for drugs.
Yes.
And she's always been the kind of person who's like, well, you never know if you don't ask, right? Like, for example, going back to TGI Fridays, one time we were at TGI Fridays and she goes, man, I really want oysters. Do you think they'll have oysters here? I'm like, at a TGI Fridays? And I was joking. I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you ask? And she actually asked our server, do you have fresh oysters today?
No. Not only do you have oysters, but do you have fresh? What is today's catch?
Yeah, at the TGI Fridays in Parma, Ohio. I don't even know where we were at. But... And she's like, well, you never know if you don't ask, right? I'm like, yeah, but this is America. You need a prescription. Like, you can't just...
Yeah.
So finally, we get her into a doctor. They were going to give her a strep test throat, but when she told them that she didn't have American health insurance, the doctor was basically like, well, then never mind. I'll just write your prescription because to do the strep test without insurance, it would have costed a couple $100s. So they're like, you're clearly sick. Your left ear's all clogged up. We'll just give you a prescription. So finally, we got her some meds, and she leaves for Tokyo the next day, right? Her flight path back to Tokyo was Cleveland, Detroit to Tokyo. Well, her flight leaving Cleveland gets delayed so much that she misses her connecting flight in Detroit. So she has to stay the night because that's the only flight leaving Detroit to Tokyo. And the next day, the girls were going back with their dad. So not only is Kelly sick this entire time, she now has to stay the night in Detroit in a very questionable hotel they put her up with food vouchers.
Wait, how did she get to Detroit if her flight from Cleveland was canceled?
It was delayed. Did I say it was canceled?
Oh, so it was delayed to the point where she missed the flight she was supposed to take in Detroit, but she still had to take the delayed flight to Detroit because no matter what, she had to leave from Detroit eventually to
Correct.
get okay, I'm on board
But she had to leave a day early for work. And then the girls and their dad were going to come the next day. But she misses her connecting flight in Detroit, and they put her up in this really skeezy hotel where she's calling me. She's like, I think I'm in danger. Like, meanwhile, she's probably just delusional from all the meds. You know what I mean? She goes, they gave me these food vouchers. I don't even know if I can use them. And she's like, the hotel, like my room key doesn't have the correct number on it. And it says it's a fail-safe room. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
I've never heard of that.
That's what it said. Yeah, on her room key, it said fail-safe.
Fail-safe?
Fail-safe. Yeah, I don't know what that means. It's like a panic room.
What was the hotel? Do you know?
Allegedly, it was the Radisson, but the shuttle that took her there said Sheraton.
Oh my God, I have so many questions. Where were you?
Romulus, Michigan.
Okay. If you've been at a hotel before and you've gotten like a key, just like one of the little magnetic ones, right? Or
yeah,
whatever,
just like the
swipey ones
yeah.
that said fail safe on it. I'd love to know, and I'd love to know what that means if you have any idea.
Is it like when you get that card in Squid Game? Like with the shapes on it?
Well, I'm just wondering, like, do they accidentally give her like the keys to the kingdom? Was it like the digital version of like a skeleton key? And she could like
this
get
was
in
no
anywhere?
Kingdom from what she was describing. This was far from a kingdom.
Oh, poor Kelly.
So she has no choice but to wait and take the flight the next day, which is the same flight that the girls and their dad have to take. His flight with the girls is also delayed leaving Cleveland. So now here's Kelly, delirious because she barely had anything to eat. She's so sick. Her food vouchers didn't cover like $4 left over one meal. And her Japanese debit card didn't work at any of the ATMs. So she had to stiff this restaurant. The manager said it was okay. But she was like, I felt this is the first time I've ever stiffed anybody. She had no choice.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have an international credit card, which, by the way, don't ever use a debit card internationally. It's stupid. I kept telling her that. So I'm like, maybe just make Chad stop at the restaurant when he's coming through to leave a cash tip.
I'm just really surprised that she would travel without having either an international card or, cash in like the currency. Because like you said, like she's well traveled. Like she's done this a lot. So it was like, girl, what was going on?
She at that point, I think she was just fed up. She's like, I just don't want to make any more decisions. You know what I mean? And her final act in this tale is that the girls are telling her our flight from Cleveland has also been delayed. Like, can you, like, I don't know, we're going to cut it really close, that connection, because they only had 10 minutes to get from gate to gate. So now Kelly's like trying to distract the gate agents, like trying to get them to delay boarding. And like, she's the last person, like refuses to get up. And because like, she knows that they're going to be running. They're 10 and 14.
What,
like
did
11,
she just
14.
ask? Was she just like, my family's coming in from another flight?
Well, I guess because it was an international flight, for certain regulations, they can't delay it unless it's like a serious reason.
Oh.
So she's saying all these things like, well, what if I have to go to the bathroom? Like, so finally, they're like, ma'am, you gotta board now. So she's like, but she doesn't have an international phone plan. So if she leaves the area, she loses Wi-Fi and can't get in touch with the girls and Chad. So finally, she's like hanging out in the what do you call it?
The gangway?
The gangway, yeah. And she's like really taking her time to board, And finally, the gate agent's like, is it two girls? She goes, yeah. They made it with like 30 seconds to spare, but like by the skin of their teeth.
Oh, Maya. So I don't know if you believe in karma, but I'm not sure what happened to Kelly's that whole week, because it's like you think she'd bank it because it's like, oh, I went through so many horrible things. Good things have to be coming. But then you stiff someone on your tip. Then you're giving the airline workers a hard time.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, is it all just a throwaway? Did it all balance out?
No, at this point.
That doesn't seem like something she would normally do. To me, like, be that sort of person. But also, you said she's never afraid to, like, you don't know unless you ask. Yeah. So it's like maybe she's just more bold than I think.
She is very bold, actually. I would say probably the boldest out of all of us. But I was just like,
Is she the middle?
yeah, she's the middle child.
Yeah.
I'm like, Kelly, maybe let's try again next year. Because this is now the second year in a row. Because last year I went to Tokyo to visit and she was sick the whole time too, but not nearly this bad.
Yeah.
And like I said, the whole time I'm like, you should have gotten insurance. We could have gotten you meds on the first day. Like New Year's Eve didn't go out, which is fine, honestly, because going out on New Year's Eve is
so overrated.
Yeah, it's for amateurs. But we spent it like, watching Squid Game. I taught the girls how to play water pong and
Wait, I'm sorry, you taught the girls how to play what?
Instead of beer pong, water pong. Because I'm a responsible aunt. I'll teach you how to build a fire, but I won't teach you how to play beer pong. And surprisingly, they're pretty good. They're pretty good shots.
Oh,
but
that's fantastic.
yeah, so that was, long story short, the tale of Kelly's epic fail of a visit. And I gotta give it to you, Kelly. Like, you hung in there. You kept a positive attitude the whole time, except maybe when you were at the gate with the agents. I kept telling her, like, be nice. Be nice. It's not their fault.
Right. Well, and like Annie and I have had to try to like make the best out of bad situations at an airport together. And like you have such a way of like you're a shameless flatterer though. Like, especially in a situation like that, like you will just be like, you like just chatting it up. Like you're definitely like a catch more flies with honey sort of approach, when you're like trying to get something out of somebody. Whereas I'm just like praying that they're going to pity me. Right? I'm like, how can I make myself as pitiable as possible? And honestly, I'm not putting on a front. That is honest. Like, that is how I feel in those moments. I'm like, can you please help me?
Well, that's usually my backup plan. If being sweet and flattering doesn't work, then I'll go into mental breakdown mode.
Yeah.
You gotta always have a backup plan.
I can't do this by myself. Please help me. But so it's interesting just like how different, because like when you were talking about certain things, I was like, oh, you would never do that. Mm-mm. Like you would never, first of all, you have an international phone plan. Mm-hmm. Kelly doesn't. I find that funny. I couldn't see you not getting some level of insurance when you were doing like a trip. You know what I mean? So like that's a difference there. You said something. Oh, did your sister have pre-check?
No.
Yeah. So like you guys are so different.
She always makes fun of me though about airport arrival times. So if my flight, let's say, is like 2 p.m., she'll text me the night before and be like, "Are you there already? Like, did you stay at the hotel at the airport?"
Oh no! So she wouldn't like travel well with us then, because I feel like we have the same like just get there. I'm like, you even get there earlier than I might if I had pre-check.
Well, the thing is, Kelly is probably the least punctual person I know. It drives me crazy. Ooh. And when I was the one doing all the driving around this time, we were at every place like right on time. Our appointment for her doctor was at 3:10. We got there right at 3:10. She goes, "Wow, you're so efficient." I'm like, "No, it's called being on time." It's not. Being efficient would have been here 10 minutes ago, which in my mind is late. It's just called being efficient. And for Christmas, I got her a Fitbit. And I joked, I'm like, just so you know, it does tell time.
Oh, man.
So,
well, I hope she's feeling better.
I think so.
And, like, settled in. But, like, what a story. And, like, just so unfortunate. Like, we always talk about, like, any time that you're sick is horrible, but dealing with it when you're traveling, and especially around the holidays, like, you want to come home and just connect with everybody, and now you, like, can't even leave the bedroom. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, especially if you're visiting the U.S. and you're used to certain ways, things being done a certain way where you're from, chances are we probably do a little differently here.
Yeah.
And I always like to ask the girls, like, what do you miss? Like, what are some things we got to do? Food-wise, for them, it's always Chipotle and Chick-fil-A and Mitchell's ice cream.
Oh, Mitchell's is like a Cleveland thing. So, like...
Mitchell's is legit.
Yeah.
But also Costco and Target. Those are like their 5 things they have to do when they're home. One of the things I never noticed before.
Wait, what do they do at Costco and Target? Because it's like...
They just walk around.
Yeah. They're not even trying to buy anything. They're not looking for something specific that might be like hard to get back home. They just
want the experience.
Oh, it's like a human zoo. They're like, let's go look at the exhibits.
Especially during the holidays.
Sorry, that's awful. But it's like, it's people watching.
It is.
Its core,
especially by the TV section. But, you know what I mean? So, but one of the things I never really thought about before is I took the girls out to breakfast one day, and their portions to them were huge, because portion sizes in America are ridiculous. So where they're like in Japan, everything is proportioned perfectly. Like you're never hungry, you're never overly stuffed. But because of that, the concept of taking leftovers is not a thing, like a takeout box or a to-go container. So I was like, oh, you don't have to finish it. We'll just get a to-go box. They're like, you can do that here? I'm like, yeah, you can. Anytime they come home, though, the one thing they always want is they want a good old-fashioned American hot dog.
Do you get that while you're at Costco?
No, I took them to a place that does hot dogs.
Where'd you take them?
I actually took them down the street to my friend's place, the local. But they do some good hot dogs. And Kelly was so sick. She's like, my taste buds are in and out. Like, and I think it was the only time the whole trip I saw her smile so brightly is when she had this hot dog.
So not only the girls, but Kelly wanted a hot dog too?
Yeah. To them, that's like, I mean, I agree with them. I think the quintessential American food is hot dog.
I mean, you're never going to hear me talk bad about a hot dog.
Oh, yeah.
You're just never going to hear me talk bad about a hot dog ever. I love hot dogs. I love them all year long. I love them every way they come. Like, yeah.
But I was thinking, like, I wonder what an actual American dish is, though. Like a mac and cheese, maybe? Apple pie, because there's that saying, American as apple pie. But chicken wings, fried chicken, milkshakes.
Man, so I've spent way too much time on TikTok in general. And the amount of discourse that goes into people just like getting really mad when people are like, this is an American food or whatever. And being like, well, actually, no, because apples aren't even from North America.
Are they not?
They were originally, I'm just talking, I don't know. But like people will be
you
like,
can't
no.
call them apples unless they're from Apple.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're just fruits. No, but like people get like so upset about that. But I don't know, like to me, like when I think of wings, I definitely think like, oh, that's like in Buffalo. That's why Buffalo wings were like a thing. Like, and like honestly though, that is, if there's anything that is US food in a nutshell, it is taking weird stuff and making it like food now. Because like wings used to just be like trash parts of the chicken.
Really?
And yeah, people did not eat buffalo wings.
Well,
like,
you know, oysters used to be considered prison food.
Same with lobster. Lobster was just like trash bugs, like sea bugs. You know what I mean? Like people, like they fed them to prisoners. Like it was like they eat like the stuff on the bottom of the ocean floor. So I don't want to eat them. But now it's like a huge thing. Like, you know, like Maine lobsters, like that's a thing. And I feel like there was another one that it's just like, hot dogs are a great example.
That's what I mean.
Like
we literally have a national hot dog eating competition.
Yes.
And it's a huge deal because what is more American than stuffing your face with 200 hot dogs in 3 minutes?
So as somebody who literally loves hot dogs, like
I can't watch
spend
it.
the whole rest of this podcast talking about how much I love hot dogs. But
Chicago dogs, though. It's got to be a Chicago
dog.
dog.
Will make me less want a hot dog than watching competitive eaters eat hot dogs. The soaking of the buns in the water, and like it is. So if you're a competitive eater, you know, more power to you. Don't take it personally. It just, you know, I personally, like, I could never enjoy a nice little buffet while watching competitive eating. Like, that's not going to work out for me.
It's just, you're just gorging yourself.
But you said Chicago hot dogs are your favorite?
Yeah.
All right. So what is the Chicago dog again?
Pickles.
Like actual pickles,
like
not pickle relish?
Like a pickle spear. Yes. Okay. Hot peppers, onions. And absolutely no ketchup. It's a Chicago thing. You put ketchup on anything, you're immediately
You mean
86.
French fries?
No ketchup. I don't know where it came from, but that's a dead giveaway that you're a tourist. And I believe it has to be a poppy seed bun.
A poppy seed. So is it just dry? There was no.
Oh, there's mustard on it.
At all. Now, do you have some sort of say in the mustard? Because like I like mustard, but I hate yellow mustard.
I actually skip the mustard and just go straight to Frank's Red Hot.
I'm not at all surprised by that.
I know. But I think that's what's really interesting. Like, you can even take a concept of a dish like a hot dog, but it's going to vary so much in the U.S. because I think people don't realize how big the U.S. is geographically.
Yeah.
And it's very diverse. Like, I don't think the European mind can comprehend just how big the U.S. is. Like, you cannot land in New York, rent a car, drive to LA for a weekend visit, and then drive back and fly. Like, I've seen that on like Reddit, like, hey, is this enough time to do a road trip? Like, no, all of Western Europe fits into New England. Like, it doesn't work like that. But I think that's what's really cool though, because of how big the US is. You can have something as simple as a hot dog and have it vary so differently from New York to Chicago to even Cleveland to LA where it's like made out of lettuce or something. You know what I mean? It's a lettuce wrap, not a hot dog.
Right.
But it's really cool because I think of too, like there's certain regions that you just automatically associate with certain cuisine, like barbecue. Like I always think of the South.
Of course.
Of course, gotta have that Southern barbecue. When I think of milkshakes, I think of American diners.
For sure.
You know?
It's like very like Americana.
Yes, thank you. It's very Americana. It brings all the tourists to America's
do you even
yard.
like milkshakes?
I used to when there was like a Steak and Shake around.
Yeah.
But now I can't stand the thought of a milkshake.
Yeah, because I feel like it doesn't align with any of the stuff I know you like. So it's like I couldn't see. I love a milkshake. I mean, if we're being for real though, a Blizzard. Oh
okay, I do like an Oreo Blizzard.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier I spent a lot of time driving my sister around, and you know when you're driving through a neighborhood, sometimes people wave at you. You know, I don't think that's out of the norm here, but she's like, it's so nice that people will just wave at you here, like. Everywhere else in Tokyo, like people just like stone cold. I'm like, well, that's an American thing. Like our American stereotypes abroad, they say, you know, we are loud, of course, sometimes poorly dressed, but we are very friendly and we are always smiling.
Yeah.
And we make small talk. Like we start a conversation with, hey, how's it going? It'd be weird if you didn't, right?
Yeah.
Almost rude.
Well, here's the thing about how's it going. You don't want a real answer most of the time.
No.
Like there's like, you know, there's protocol. How's it going? Good.
Yeah, it's
how's
like,
it going?
Yeah, it's like an appetizer to the real conversation main course. Like you don't really want that. You're not gonna fill up on that, but like it's just like an intro.
Yeah.
Like you don't just
like for instance, if you are like a server and you're greeting your table, it's very common to be like, how's everybody doing tonight? But you don't want to actually hear their problems.
But you know what? When I was a bartender, if someone actually told me how awful of a day they were having, I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
Right.
And then we end up having a great time.
Yeah. And
but like you don't actually care.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you got to know the certain sort of ways to reply. Like in America, if somebody asks how's it going and you're like living the dream, that means you are one step to depression. Like there is no dream. We are not living it. It's a nightmare. We're all actively in the nightmare, you know?
Yeah.
Or like if somebody's like, oh, how's it going? And it's like, you know, just one of those days.
One of those days.
It's like enough said. All right. Like you don't need to give me a whole diatribe. Like that's it. Like you know the key phrases. So I could totally understand though if you're not in it for a while, you know, like in your sister's case, and you come back to those sort of like phrases, it's like they've lost their meaning in a way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, they have. But even within the US, like you don't even have to be from, you can tell where someone is from just based on certain things they say or the way they say it. Like I feel like a big debate has always been like, is it soda or is it pop?
Yeah.
You know?
Or are you from that one area of the US where everything's Coke?
I've heard of that. That makes it like Sprite is Coke, orange soda is Coke, Dr. Pepper's Coke. Like it can't all just be Coke.
Yeah, then how do
Yeah,
you
if
know?
you asked me in college, I'm like, I probably would be like, you mean mixer? But or chaser.
Do you mean a virgin rum and Coke?
But yeah, she was like, it's just kind of nice, you know, people will just wave at you when they're out walking their dog. And she came over and I was like, hey, do you want something to drink? Oh, this was a different trip, but she made fun of me back when I was a little bit younger for having a whole stack of red Solo cups in my cabinet because her colleagues and her in Tokyo, sometimes on 4th of July, they'll throw an American party. And it's the red Solo cups and the bald eagles and like.
How else are you going to teach your nieces water pong without red Solo cups?
We didn't have any. I had to use their dad's stash of coffee cups. Like,
what? No, that's not even close to regulation.
It's not regulation at all. At all. I'm teaching them street water pong at this point. But
I mean, adapt to any situation
exactly.
you're put in, girls. That's the real lesson here. But so I'm curious though. So when your sister came back to the States from Tokyo, she spent most of her time, unfortunately, in bed. I guess that's not really a good barometer. But let's just say the girls or whoever.
Yeah.
Like you're pretty suburban.
Yeah.
But then you took them into the city, into Cleveland for like TSO and stuff. So was there a stark difference to them getting to experience sort of like both of those different American lifestyles?
No, I mean, they live in the most populated city in the world, you know? So to them, it was like probably us going to a library. Like, you know what I mean?
Cleveland's like quaint.
Yeah, Cleveland, like what a cute little hometown. But no, I mean, it was really pretty though where we were at. We were downtown, all the Christmas lights were up. So they were into it. You know, they just love doing things. But they are more in tune with certain trends, like culturally. And it's so funny because I don't think us as Americans, we realize how fast trends move here versus other parts of the world. So where they're from, or where they're living, you know, they came here and they're like, how do you have all these Stanley cups? I'm like, what? I'm like, the Stanley cups? They're like, we can't find any in Tokyo. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, like a few months ago, everybody was going crazy over the Stanley cups. They're like, they're going crazy over it now. So they're like 6 months behind.
Yeah.
So their trends move a little bit slower. I'm like, well,
I feel like they're already on their way out here.
Yeah,
You know
they're
what I
onto
mean?
like a different brand now. I don't know. But I'm like, at least you're not still saying like demure. And so there's a little delay in that. But I think that's how it is in like Southeast Asia. Because I remember the last time I visited China in 2000, you could not go anywhere without hearing "Careless Whisper," the song by
Like,
George Michael.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
like it was like the summer's biggest hit in Southeast China. I don't know why it stands out in my mind from that visit. Was that you cannot go anywhere without hearing that song, and you know it's a great song. Like "Guilty Feet Have No Rhythm." As a 9-year-old, I felt that. I'm just vibing.
Lock me up, Judge. I am guilty.
Oh man.
God.
But yeah, so it was just really cool to kind of see them as American tourists from their point of view, even though they're from here. You know, they just haven't been here long enough. Well, they've been away long enough now that they almost feel like a tourist when they do come home.
Well, and for Kelly, I think, absolutely makes sense. With the girls, though, I think are like true tourists at this point.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like, they don't feel any allegiance. Like, this isn't like home in any way. They didn't grow up here, really.
Right. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Like they're fluent in Japanese.
Right.
Kelly's English has gotten worse, actually.
Yeah, use it or lose
I mean,
it. Like can't
yeah,
really
but
fault her
she's
for
not.
that.
She doesn't speak Japanese either. So I'm
What
like,
is she doing?
I don't know. Do you just?
Just texting.
Yeah, I think all she does is just text and email. But I remember
life, though.
Ava, the younger one, was telling me one time that her mom was tucking my sister. Her mom was tucking her to bed. And was telling her to always be careful for surroundings because, in her words, Annie lived in a really dangerous place, Chicago. And I'm like, Chicago's not a dangerous place. Like any big city, it has a bad parts, but the city of Chicago itself is a great city. Like, I'm like, Ava, don't let your mom like freak you out like that. And she goes, oh, my mom said you always have to awares yourself with your surroundings.
I mean, that is good advice. Like,
But I'm like, she said it that way. Like, make sure you aware yourself. Is that a thing? Is that how it's said?
No,
Make yourself aware, right?
Yeah, make yourself
Yeah,
aware.
she also says, well, it nervouses me that you do all these trips by yourself.
It nervouses me. I like that. I like that, though.
Yeah, but it was great to have them home and just kind of see their excitement at the little things that we don't really think of sometimes.
Yeah, so it sounds like the main standout things were like, of course, like parking lots. That's weird.
Yeah, yeah.
The takeaway, like being able to have leftovers and like how much of a thing that is. Like, I think people assume that like leftovers are like a side effect, but I think it's like the best part of going out. Like, I plan on leftovers. You know what I mean?
Depends
like
on what it is.
Well, yeah, but also like if I don't think it's going to be good leftover, I probably won't even get it at all unless somebody's going to split it with me right then and there or something. But
like
anyway.
a milkshake, you wouldn't take a leftover milkshake to go. Have you? You do, don't you? Oh, gross.
I put it in the freezer.
No, that's so gross.
And then it just becomes ice cream. Like,
that's
for
so
sure. Yeah, because like honestly, it takes me like a long time. Like, I can't usually eat like a whole thing of ice cream in one setting. So it's like I have to do it that way. But anyway, so
do you do the French fries in the milkshake? I've never done that. I've never tried it.
The salty sweet? Why not? I mean, like
it feels like that. Just feels a little illegal. It's an unholy union. But if you've tried it and you're a big fan of it, let us know. Maybe it's just a regional thing. I don't know.
I think around here it's more Frosties. Like the Frosty with the fries is more of what I hear a lot. Although I did see something about somebody doing Culver's cheese curds in their custard shakes. And I was like...
You just said so many words that I hate. Cheese, curd, custard.
Cheese curds are fantastic. Little squeak squeak, I love it. So yeah, aside from that, it sounds like just sort of learning that the American stereotypes stay true in America too. Like, we don't just go to other countries and smile and wave and make weird small talk. Like, we do that at home.
Yeah, I think for better or for worse, yes. But I do love that they enjoy the fact that everyone was really nice and always smiled and
yeah,
you know what I mean? But I think it's really cool that if you come to the US, you can experience this huge, I mean, I know it's so tacky to say, but this huge melting pot pot.
So that being said, your sister or your nieces, now that they've, traveled back here to like the Midwest part of the States, is that even like on their radar for places they want to visit or travel to eventually, like other places in the States?
Well, if they come up to me one day and say, hey, you want to go to Niagara Falls? I'd be like, absolutely not. Don't talk to me. I don't know you. We're not related.
Right.
If they were like, we want to do a crazy road trip through the West and do all these national parks, because I got national parks in my mind because of my trip in April for Zion. I'd be up for that, but I know Kelly would hate it. She's not that kind of person. Like, she likes to wine and dine, and
she's a city gal.
She's absolutely a city gal. Whereas Ava, the younger one, like when I took them glamping last year in Japan, like she's on the beach with me digging a hole so we could build a fire. You know what I mean? And Sophie and her mom are inside making a charcuterie board. Like that's our relationship summed up.
Well, I would love if you follow up with them and be like, is there anywhere in the U.S. that you guys would want to travel? Because like, I feel like it is such a unique opportunity to get their insights. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like you mentioned this on an episode before. There are certain methods of travel that are very American, like RVs.
For sure.
I think they might be into that actually. Kelly, definitely not, but I do it.
It's a no for me, RV travel. Only because there's no way I'm doing anything to participate. I'm not driving it, and I'm not emptying the toilet either. So like,
I will say I wish there was better infrastructure for train travel, because I would love to do a train trip. We have so many beautiful geographical spots that flying right over them or driving through them just doesn't quite do it the same as if you were to travel by train.
Yeah.
So I just wish there was more of a system in place compared to other countries, especially since we're so big.
Right.
So
yeah, it would actually like make a lot of sense for us.
You would think, but
yeah. Well, I think we want to hear from our listeners, right, Annie? Like,
absolutely.
I want to know their insights about whether it's even just being a tourist in other places of the U.S., or if you yourself have been a tourist here visiting our country, or if you sort of like Annie or her family has experience like moving here.
Yeah. Or even if you have relatives that visit you that still live in Europe or wherever else.
Yeah.
Like, let us know, because it's always so great to see their first impression of how life is like here. So yeah, if you've got friends or family that visit that aren't from here, we want to know their experience too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and where can they send these stories to?
Oh my God, so many places, you guys. Get in touch with us. We seriously want to hear from you. We want to share your stories, your opinions, interact with you guys. It is like probably our favorite part of the whole podcast.
For sure.
I would say. So the easiest way might be just dropping a comment on whatever platform you're listening to. You could also text us directly. Share your travel stories and opinions with us. There's a link right in the podcast description. And then for, a little bit more of a long story you want to share, or if you want to be a bit more anonymous, you can always email us directly. Both Annie and I have access to this email. Only we have access to this email. And it is travelstoriesunpacked@gmail.com. We'll say it one more time. That's travelstoriesunpacked@gmail.com. So, share your stories with us and we might share it on the show.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. Don't forget next week, tune in on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube live for KHM Today. And we will be back with a new episode on Friday, January 31st.
All right. See y'all there.
And this podcast is brought to you by KHM Travel Group, a leading host agency for independent travel agents. Head to khmtravel.com to learn more.